my man cave here, and as you can see, take a look around here. I have been developing quite a bit of the film from Vancouver, and I must say that it's turning out really, really, really awesome. Just take a look at what I have here. This is just a few of them. I have four more that I have to develop. So what I've done is I've actually loaded two, and I'll show you guys the outfit that I have for developing film, the setup that I have here. Okay, so let's go and take a quick look at my special dark room. Apart from this space, which I use for printing, this is actually my dark room. This bathroom right here. This is what I use as my dark room, okay? And I'll show you guys around. This is the Patterson tank. This is a basement bathroom here. It's darker down here, so I can use it for this. This is a Patterson tank which I use. It's currently loaded with two rows in there. And in this space, what I wanted to show you is the layout here. So what I do when I come here is I have my can opener here. You need a can opener to open the film, to open the top of the film and take the roll out. And I put my pair of scissors right on this side. I always have this specific arrangement. And the reason why I do this is this whole space is going to be dark. And when it's dark in here, you don't want to be fumbling. You want to know exactly where everything is at. So I make sure that I have my can opener right here and my pair of scissors on this side so I know exactly where it is. When I come here with my Patterson tank, what I do is I arrange everything here, and I know where the reels are and the direction that they're facing. So I pick it up in the dark and I insert the film, and I can just spin it and it just auto feeds. So now that you've seen this space, I'm going to take you to the other space where I actually do the development. So let's go and let's actually develop some film. So I'm in the basement. Just gonna walk up to this side here where I currently have some music playing, but I may have to turn it down because I don't want YouTube to flag me. This is actually, guess what, guys? This is actually an 8-track tape playing right now, and I love the ambience of whenever I come here to develop film. I need to create the right ambience, right? So I always have my 8-track or this record player right there playing, and it just creates a really nice ambience over here. This is the space where I actually develop film. Okay, and Fiesta de la Resistance is this one right here. This here is my water bath. So my water bath is an isotemp um, from Fisher Scientific. This was meant for a lab, but I was able to acquire it, and it's been such an amazing benefit to me in this space. Prior to me getting this water bath that keeps the temperature constant, I used to actually use the tap, and I would literally use a thermometer right there, and I would insert it into a bath and try and keep the temperature constant by adding more hot water as you go. And those of you that know about developing color film, you know color film is very temperature sensitive. So the developer and the Blake solutions have to be kept at a temperature of 102 Fahrenheit, I believe. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, that's 102 Fahrenheit, and I'll explain what's on this as well. So what I do is I keep my that's my developer and my Blake solution right there in there, and this water bath keeps it at a fixed temperature of 102 degrees. And so I've already set this with the thermometer, made sure that it's 102 in there. So as I'm developing, when I'm doing a batch developing session, it comes in very handy. The moment I finish with the developer, I put it in here to keep the temperature constant. So there are three chemicals that we use in developing film. One is the developer, two is the Blix, and the third is the stabilizer. And the stabilizer solution is one that is the only one that can be kept at room temperature, okay? The others have to be kept up at 102 degrees Fahrenheit. And for color film, this is only for color film. Black and white film is another process which I will do at a different time. But some of you may be asking, why do I need to develop film? You know what? You'll be saving yourself a ton of money. Look at all these empty canisters that I've actually developed over the past few years. And this is actually my third developing kit in 4 or 5 years. So you can imagine these kits last a long time. I know that I can at least develop 50 rolls of film with just one kit. And a kit here costs about, now it's more expensive, so it's about $65. But think about it, that's still really good. 50 rolls of film for that much. If you take it to the lab, how much does it cost? I don't know, because I've never taken my film to the lab. All the film that you see on this channel, I develop it myself. And I save a ton of money when I develop it myself. And as you progress in the kit, all you have to do is basically increase the time for the developer a little bit, as the developer gets a bit weaker and weaker. And I've done this enough to actually be able to gauge it and to know when the developer is getting weak and when I need to extend it by, say, 10 seconds. 10 seconds should be more than enough, and I've never had a problem. And look at how much. This is actually only some of the rows that I have developed. Okay, so now let me take you through the process here and what I have going on here. This is an empty box. This is actually a new Paterson tank that I got recently, and I love the Paterson tank. My previous one started leaking for some reason, and whenever I agitate, when you agitate, you have to like flip this up and down, like tumble it, and it was spilling too much of the liquid and it was getting really annoying. So in my wisdom, I thought that, oh, let me order a different type of tank. Let me try out a different type of tank. So what I got was a different system, which was these Omega systems here. These are different. These are different from what the Paterson reels look like this, okay? It's auto feeds, and you put the film in there, and you just, as you twist, it just auto feeds. It's so simple. This is what I would recommend for a beginner. I would recommend the Paterson tank. Do not go for the Omega system. I have tried it a few times, and trust me, it's not very conducive. I've actually ruined a few batches of film because it's quite difficult to load these things properly. And when you actually load them also, it's quite easy for the film to touch, and that causes parts of the film not to develop properly. And when you do that, it actually causes blotches, big blotches, and there are parts of the image that are not developed. And so I'm not a fan of these. If you're a beginner or even if you're a professional, just go for these ones, okay? Go for the Paterson tanks. They're easy enough. They'll make your life less miserable. About the chemicals, let me put this away. About the chemicals that you see in here, how to actually mix these chemicals, I have a video on my channel that you can check it out. I made a video specifically to show you guys how to mix those chemicals. So this video that I'm doing here is just going to develop this film. So in a minute or so, I'm gonna start developing the film. But let me show you one more tool that I use here. This timer here. And this is crucial. This is a really crucial part of my process here. You guys know how the timer works. You press to start and to stop. Then you double press. Oops. I want to show you guys. Okay, well, how do I do this without? Let me just tilt it a bit. You double press to reset, like that, and then you press 1, 1, 2, 2, that's 2 seconds. For the developer, you need 3.5 minutes, okay? So that's 3.5 minutes. So then you press seconds till you get to 30. For the Blix solution, you need 6.5 minutes. So the way the process will start right from the onset is that I am going to pre-warm the film. The process, the actual name is called the pre-soak. It's called the pre-soak. So you pre-soak this at a temperature of 102. That's warm water. I just use warm water from the tap, and I know how 102 degrees should feel like from experience. So all I do is I just open the tap, I sense it, okay? I sense it out, feel it out. I know when it's just about 100. It doesn't have to be specific for the pre-soak. And this is just for water, okay? The pre-soak is just water. Okay, this feels like 102 degrees. How do I know? Because I've done this hundreds of times, I guess, so I know. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is, you see, this is a light, tight environment. The film is in there. So I'm gonna fill this up with water while I set the timer to a minute. So that goes to a minute, and now this is filled. What I'm gonna do is stop the water, start the timer. The pre-soak is only a minute, okay? So while this thing pre-soaks, I'm just gonna wedge this here so that I can actually do some work and talk to you guys at the same time. And so I have the film in here, I have the water in here, and I'm just gonna cover it. I like to cover it, even though I know it's a light tight system, even without the lid, just to be double sure. I just like to cover it, okay? So what I'm doing now, I'm just gonna wait for the timer. It's at 20 seconds left, and as it counts down, when it gets to 0, I'm gonna pour out the water. This is the pre-soak with water, okay? So let's wait for 7 seconds, 6 seconds left, and that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna pour this out like that. Make sure, let me flip this around so that I can show you guys. So we're just gonna pour it. I see the color. The color is pink, right? And this there's a good reason now, especially for the high ISO film. This one is ISO 400 film. It washes off some of the coating from the film, and that's the purpose. Okay, let's turn this thing off. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip this again. And what I'm gonna do now, actually, let me flip this. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take out the developer. Start with the developer for 3.5 minutes. So let's set this up for 3.5 minutes. That's 1, 2, 3, and then the seconds up to 30 seconds. I'm not sure if you guys can see. 24, 25, 27, 9, and that's 3:30. Okay, so that is set for the developer. So because I need both hands, I'm gonna flip this around. Let me see what's the best position to put this so that you guys can also, I wish I could lodge this somewhere better, but this is the best I can do. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I need to focus, so I'm gonna take out the developer, and I don't waste time once it comes out. You want the temperature to be at 102, so right away I'm going to pour the developer in. The developer is going in, and once the developer goes in, that's 3.5 minutes. I have to agitate with this stirrer. I'll show you guys how I do it. Okay, it's in. I'm gonna start the timer, and the timer is started. Let me flip this around, and right away I have to agitate for the first I have to agitate this for the first 10 seconds. Stop. Okay. With the developer, I don't like, and then after I have to agitate every 30 second, at every 30-second mark. Okay, with the developer, I don't like to tumble it, only with the Blix. So now we're at 3 minutes, so I have to just stir it a bit. Don't over agitate, otherwise your film will look quite grainy. Just that. That's all I do. That's all I do. I keep the lid on, not tightly, but just on, even though it's a light, tight environment. Okay, so now we're at, if you look, 234, 232, so 230. Okay, let's stir again. We're gonna stir again. Count to like 5, 4, 5, and that's it. That's all you have to do for stirring. You don't have to do too much. If you do it too much, you're not gonna like the results that you see. Okay, let's get back to the timer. It's at 2, or almost at the top. So every 30 seconds, right? 2. Okay, time to stir. Let's stir again. See how easy it is? It's quite easy, right? You stir, stir, stir. About 5 seconds and stop. And you notice how I filled this to the top, and not to the top, but to that level. There's a good reason why I do that, just so that the level is going to cover the 2 rows. Okay, 1 minute 30 seconds. Okay, time to stir again. There we go. Stir for about 5 seconds, and that's it. Okay, so that's the level I keep it at usually, and there's still a little bit of developer solution here because I use a liter, so that's good because it only takes maybe about 750 mils or something like that. Okay, look at the time. Notice how you have to be very conscious about the time that you're working with. So you have to be very conscious about the time. About 5 seconds stirring, and that's it. I'm done. Okay, don't overdo the stirring. Keep the lid on. Let's get back to the timer. We're looking for when it gets to 30 seconds, then we stir again. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, last stirring. This will be the last time I stir. Okay, for about 5 seconds, and that's it. All done. So now I just let it count down, but I need 2 hands to do this. So I'm just gonna wedge this phone so that I can do that. Okay, guys? All right, because I need to pour out. What I use is a funnel. Okay. Oh, that's the timer. Stop. You need to pour this right away. You don't want the developer to stay longer than the time allotted. Okay, so I'm pouring the developer out back into the bottle. Back into the bottle all the way. Okay, I'm gonna cover this, the lid on. That's my developer right here. Keep the cap back on, and then what I'm gonna do now is put this back into the bath. So watch me as I do that. Let's just spin this around, and sorry, but this goes back in here. Nice. So that will, because I have 2 more rows to develop, that goes back in here. Now I'm gonna take out the Blix solution. That's the Blix solution, and I'm gonna do the same. But the Blix solution develops for how long? 6.5 minutes, right? 6.5 minutes, and that has to be done right after the developer. So that's going in. I'm gonna change the time to 6.5 minutes, and the stirring process is similar to the developer. Similar, okay? Similar. I stir for the first 10 seconds, but this time I'm not gonna stir. I'm gonna actually tumble it, and there's a reason why I do that. So, and I'll show you guys what I mean by that. I stir for the first 10 seconds, get it started. The time is at 6:26. It's counting down. The first 10 seconds I will stir, and then after that I'm going to tumble it every 30 seconds. Okay, so that's 10 seconds done. I'm gonna put the lid all the way on so that I can tumble it. Okay, And I'll show you guys what I mean by that once I get to that stage. Okay, so now we are at 6, right on the nose. So what I do is tumble it 4 times. 2, 3, and 4. And that's it. Let it sit for a bit. For the next 30 seconds. I do it again in, now it's 15 seconds. Okay, so I'll show you guys in a bit. We're at 37, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We tumble again 4 times. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. This is the Blix. Don't forget. But the Blix, the cool thing about the Blix is that you have to vent it after every 2. Did you hear that? It's almost like gas coming out. You have to vent it after every 2 tumbles. It's from my experience, that's what works best for me. Oh, let's look at the time. It's at 5:04, 5:02, 5:01, 5, top of the minute. So there we go. We have to tumble again. 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And now what are we gonna do? We're gonna wait again for another 15 seconds or so now. 45, 44, that's 4:42. It's counting down, okay? Counted down from 6:30, right? That was 6.5 minutes. It's at 4:34, 4:33, 32, 31, 30. Let's tumble again. 4 times. 3 and 4. And because this is the second one, we have to vent it again. Listen. Do you hear that? A little vent. The air gas that comes out. You have to vent it after every couple tumbles, and that's what I do after every minute. Let's say after every minute, if you know what I mean. Okay, so now the time is at 4:02, 4:01, 4:00. Let's tumble again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 4 times, right? Because we are counting down from 6:30 for the Blix solution. So now we're at 3:45, 15 more minutes, and we have to tumble again. So let's wait. Because I need both hands, guys, I can't show you exactly the time, but now I'll tell you what's going on. 3:32, 3:31, 3:30. We have to tumble now. Okay, 2 and 3 and 4, and vent it. Yeah, that was a little vent. At the beginning, you get more of the gas coming out. Towards the end, it's only a tiny bit. Because towards the end, I guess the reactions are not as pronounced as right from the beginning, right? So, let me... Oh, I have to... Sorry, I wanted to switch, but I have to actually tumble again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We're now at 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Okay, so we're counting down to 0. Tumbling at every 30 seconds. And the key is try not to over agitate it. If you over agitate it, you're gonna end up over developing your film, and you're gonna end up with a film that looks a bit too grainy. Sometimes when I over agitate, oops, I'm talking too much, I got carried away there. 3 and 4, okay? Whenever I've over agitated, what I ended up with... Oh, thank you. I really love that you guys appreciate what I do. Really, yeah, thank you for joining. I really appreciate you joining. 2 minutes and 1 and 2 minutes exactly. Let's tumble again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so let's vent it. Let's vent it for crying out. A little tiny vent. A little tiny vent. This is all you gotta do, right? It's not so much work. Usually it takes me about 15 minutes to do 2 rolls of film. And imagine you can do this yourself. If you... Oh, 1 minute and 30. I have to tumble, sorry. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. You can do this yourself, guys. You will save yourself a ton of money. Trust me, I have never taken my film to a lab, and all these years, everything you see on this channel, self-developed. and I've saved myself a lot of money. And by that, doing that, film is not so expensive, because film is expensive enough. The film is, oh, it's 1 minute, sorry, I have to tumble, 2 and 3 and 4. Film is expensive enough, but film photography does not have to be overly expensive. Once you eliminate you having to take your film to the lab, all you have to worry about is actually saving to buy the film, because film is getting really pricey these days. And I blame myself and others who have encouraged people to be more into film. Okay, 30 seconds left, guys. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. For those that just joined, this is the Blix solution in there. It takes 6.5 minutes to go through the Blix cycle. We already did the developer. There's the Blix, and then after there is the stabilizer. Actually, after this, I need to rinse for 3 minutes in warm water. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. 3 seconds. Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to. That's my timer. That's my timer. I have to empty the Blix. When the timer goes off, you gotta move. Okay. All right. So I'm emptying the Blix back into the bottle. Back into the bottle, because we reuse here. And like I said, I can do 50 rolls of film with just one kit. And I've been doing it all these years, no problems. So yeah, don't believe the hype. Those that would tell you, hey, you can only do 10 rolls. That's not true. You can do more than 10 rolls with those kits. After maybe about 30 rows, or you just have to extend the time by a few seconds, right? So that's the Blix solution. It's going back in the bath, because I have 2 more rows of film to do tonight, but I'm just showing you guys these first 2. So here is an empty one with the rolls in there. Just after the Blix, I have to rinse this for 3 minutes with warm water. Okay, so this one I can turn the camera around so you guys can see. Okay, so that's it right here. And this part can actually be done in the light, but I never have done it in the light because I'm too cautious. And here again, you keep the water a bit warm, like lukewarm. It's like lukewarm. This part, you have to keep it a little warm, but not too. Don't be too fussy about the temperature. Okay, for 3 minutes. So I forgot to set the time. Too much to do here. 3 minutes. Start. Okay, let's rinse. Let's rinse. Okay, what I do is I usually just let it fall in slowly like that, and just let it overflow, so you don't waste water, right? You don't want to waste water. And so let's recap, guys. For those of you that have been here, let's recap. What did we start with? Let's talk about this bath, guys. I have this bath here because when you're developing color film, you need to be very mindful of the temperature. The temperature matters. This thing keeps it at 102 degrees. I have my Blix and the developer solution. Those ones are, let's turn this off. Let this sit for about 30 seconds or so, then I'll empty it, then I'll fill it again. The Blix and the developer solution are temperature sensitive. So this bath actually allows me to keep it constant at that temperature whenever I'm doing a batch of film. This is really helpful. I take it out, use it, put it back in there. The third chemical that you need is the stabilizer. That one can be kept at room temperature. So that one sits here. And these chemicals, I've shown you guys how to mix them. They're easy to mix. You can find them from any of your photography supply store. Just gonna empty this, sorry. And fill it again. This is lukewarm water. And how do I know it's around 102? I know because I know the temperature. I've played around with this for a while. I can tell. And it's only for the water. I don't do that for the chemicals. The chemicals have to be very, very specifically controlled at that particular temperature. The water, when you're rinsing, Just lukewarm water is good enough, okay? That should not give you any problems. Okay, now that it's filled, I'm gonna let it sit. And as you notice here, the timer has been counting down from 3 minutes. This session here is 3 minutes for to wash it after the Blix. So I was talking about the stabilizer. This one is at room temperature. Everything else, those other two are kept at 102 degrees. Okay, so the first part was the developer at 3.5 minutes. The second was the Blix at 6.5 minutes. Then after that, we are rinsing it for 3 minutes. And then after that, what we're gonna do? We're gonna put the stabilizer in for a minute, and I'll show you. So that's what we're gonna be doing now. This is counting down to 0. At 0, I'm gonna empty this, and now it's at 0. So stop, and let's empty this. As I said, this stage can be done actually with the light seal here open, but I never like to do that because I'm overly cautious. So at this stage, now that this has been rinsed, what we're gonna do, we're gonna add, I can't do this with one hand. Let me just set this camera down and let's do this. We're gonna open this stabilizer and we're gonna pour it. This part I can do with one hand. So let me just switch the camera around. Okay, we're gonna pour it. Pour. The stabilizer part, it can be from 30 seconds to a minute. So don't be too fussy about the time. As long as you're able to do it between 30 seconds and a minute, it's okay. Let's set this for a minute. I always do it for a minute. And start, when you start, you have to actually agitate with the stirrer for the first, I think 15 seconds or so, 15 seconds. You agitate for the first 15 seconds. It's been about 15 seconds and stop. And you just let it sit for the rest of the minute. Okay, for the remainder of the minute. You can see the time now. So 30 seconds left. Okay, so after the 30 seconds, I pour it back in here, and then my foam is fully developed. Let's rinse the funnel. Let's rinse that funnel because that funnel was used to pour the Blix out, so you have to rinse it, you know, so you don't introduce other chemicals or mix the chemicals, right? So let's see how much time. Time is up. This is the end, actually, of the developing process, guys. That's it. That's it. Look at that. Just pour out the stabilizer. That's it. Not too difficult, guys. That is it. Alright. Just towards the end, you have to be careful. So, because this one tends to foam a bit, and then it will spill over when it foams. So I'm very careful about that. Okay, guys, are you okay? After this now, it says it's done, but I always like to rinse it for just a tiny bit with just lukewarm water. I like to just rinse it like that and pour out the water. And guess what, guys? Now I use my little squeegee tool, wet it, and I'm gonna set this camera down so I can show you guys. I can show you guys the final results. Are you ready for this, guys? Are you ready? Alright, so let's see if we were successful. I'm sure we will be. If we failed, I blame you. I'm just kidding. Alrighty, let's see. I'm sure it's gonna be good. Woo! Alright. Take a look, guys. This is a good sign. Whenever you see, that's a good sign. You see? See the results, guys? This is 400 film, and this is all the stuff I took from Vancouver, right? So let's take it out. Let's take the first one out. Ooh, it fell, but I got the film. And so what I'm gonna do is just use the squeegee tool like that and just squeegee all the water out. I do it twice, like that, okay? And now check this out. It needs to dry at this point, but this looks like good exposure, and I don't know how to show you guys the best way because the light is this way. If the light was behind, then you would see it better, but maybe I'll do that. I'm gonna switch the camera around so that you guys can see. Hold on. Let's switch the camera around and let's just hold it against the light. You see that? Look at that. You guys see? That's well developed. And that is good exposure. How do I know? I know because I've dealt with this stuff for a while now. You can see that it's not too washed out, it's not too dark, it's not too bright. There's good definition for the images, and this is good. So what I do now is I'm gonna go right into this room. Da 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 da. And this one is gonna join the rest of its friends over here. And this is my process, guys. What I do is I hang it up with that peg over there, and then I hang another one at the bottom. The reason why I do that is so that the film doesn't coil up, okay? Because if you don't put that down there and put that weight on it, when it dries, it will sort of naturally coil back in the shape that it was in the canister. So you're gonna get film that looks a bit twisted, but when you put that on, it straightens it. It keeps it dry and straight, so that when you scan, you're gonna get nice and flat, film to scan. So this is the one that we just developed. I'm gonna hang it up in the same way, and I'm gonna switch the camera around and say, hey guys, thank you so much for joining me on this live. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. And you see all the stuff behind me, all the cool stuff behind me. I don't get bored in this house. I don't, because I have too many fun things to keep me occupied. After I finish this film developing, I'm gonna go play with my computers and stuff that I have to set up over there. But I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, and have a blessed and wonderful evening. Take care, guys.